Welcome to my channel people. Author link will be on description. Mukai's betrayal didn't come as a surprise to me. I understood his personality clearly and knew that his family was his biggest weakness, especially his ill son. However, I never expected it to come so early and even cause me to miss the chance to find Tsunade and bring her back to gain her help to protect the village and maybe even help to resurrect Minato and Kushina fully and not use such a temporary tactic like the spirit transformation jutsu. Maybe the situation could have changed with her here as another cage-level ninja, especially with her unmatched medical skills, which would boost both the morale and survivability of our ninjas to a whole new level in this hopeless situation. What annoyed me the most about this is that it brought back some of the bad memories from my past life that I couldn't forget. In my past life, I lived in poverty after my parents' unfortunate death, the incident that turned me into an orphan and kept me scarred for life to the point that remembering it caused me to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. However, I eventually fought through it along with all the pain and trauma I was experiencing at that point in my life. At last, thanks to all my hard work, I was able to create a small business with my best friend, a friend that I trusted with my life at the time, and it saved me from my poverty. Some more time passed, and we both got even more successful as we developed our business into something bigger. However, with success came confidence, and following that confidence came arrogance. Being young, I was blinded with my success and became less calculating in my approach, and thanks to my lonely heart at the time, I didn't notice the changes happening to my best friend, or maybe I didn't want to notice. My greedy, best friend, wanted the business all to himself, so he concocted a very simple but destructive scheme. He visited my house with his girlfriend, and idiot me didn't suspect anything and welcomed them happily. However, he took an opportunity to go to the bathroom and secretly hid many illegal drugs and weapons in my house. Clearly, after he left, he called the police and I was quickly arrested because of this, and what followed was betrayal from other workers of our business who he paid to assassinate my character and frame me for things I didn't do. Basically, he used everything in the book of treacheries to convince the court to make him the sole owner of the business, and I had to go to jail for some years because of this incident. It taught me a very harsh lesson, and I learned the harsh way how trusting people without any hesitation is a recipe for disaster, and it gave a new meaning to the saying, money changes people. No, it simply shows who they truly are. As I escaped from my memories, I couldn't help but think, did I become reckless? As I looked back at my previous decisions, especially the one about recruiting Mukai. I recruited a man that chose to betray the village he was living in for years because of his family, so him betraying me for the same reason is expected. However, I never thought it would come this soon, huh? Or did I naively think I could change him? I couldn't help but rethink why I decided to do this. It must be my save and load ability. It made me less careful, knowing I can simply go back in time and fix my mistakes, which resulted in me misjudging and overlooking many things like what led to the current situation. I decided to be more careful in the future before I turned my focus back to Mukai, who's still looking at me perplexed. Where did you find Tsunade? I asked him something I really needed to know for my future plans. Mukai seemed surprised at me asking this out of all the things he was waiting to be asked about, like why he betrayed me and whatnot. Still, he chose to remain silent and decided to not answer my question. Sorry, I can't tell you this, or Kumo will go back on their words if Tsunade comes here. I can't risk Murata's only chance in life, thought Mukai while he observed my weird calmness in this situation, and he understood that this was merely the calm before the storm. I calmly looked at his decision and decided to try to provoke him a little, not answering, huh? I wonder, from where you get all this courage knowing your family is still here in Konoha? Hearing my clear threat, Mukai looked at me menacingly. Don't force my hand, kid. I really don't want to kill you. I shook my head at him. No, don't be mistaken. Right now I am the one who's conflicted on whether to kill you or not. Mukai's eyes went wide and looked like he heard the most hilarious joke. Ha, kid, do you really think that I showed you every? He was about to continue saying that he never showed his full strength blah blah blah, but I quickly cut him off. Shut up, I said as I looked at him with dead eyes as if looking at a corpse, and he suddenly froze, not because of what I said or the fact that he saw my eyes changing into Mangekyo Sharingan. No. He froze because of the dark aura that enveloped the air around me, and an overwhelming sense of fear hit him as he saw with his Byakugan something he never thought he could see. Death. Mukai, I will ask you one last time, are you a friend or an enemy? I said, and what I got as an answer is Mukai, who finally felt his life was at risk trying to close the distance on me to use his gentle fist to immobilize me. I sadly shook my head before I calmly muttered, Jikaninki. Blood started dripping from my right eye. As for Mukai, he simply stopped in his tracks and stood rooted in place like a statue before he bowed to me. I regretfully sighed before I turned around and walked back to the Hokage office with Mukai following obediently behind me, and the only indication of a conflict happening is the blood still dripping from my face. Meanwhile, inside the Hokage tower, all the clan heads and high-level ninja were invited to an urgent meeting, but it wasn't the usual meeting for managing Konoha. No, this was a war meeting, and currently, Shikaku as the Jonin commander was standing in front of everyone. In front of him was a board that showed the map of the world, and he was pointing at the land of fire and showing its borders with the other great lands highlighted in red, meaning a very deadly area. This was where the war's going to take place. They were currently discussing how to relocate their manpower to defend against the multiple fronts, and Shikaku proposed a plan based on the element's superiority theory, because one of the advantages of Konoha's ninja is that they don't specialize in one type of release like Kumo, for example, that specializes mostly in lightning release. Instead, here different clans have different specializations and secret arts, and based on this the plan for war was made. Different chakra natures have the advantage over one another. Water beats fire, fire beats wind, wind beats lightning, lightning beats earth, and earth beats water. And based on this, Shikaku made the plan of the war. The Uchiha clan will lead other clans and ninjas that specialize in fire release to deal with any attacks that come from the land of wind in the west. They will also be assigned with medical nin that are skilled in dealing with poison. Any objections? Shikaku's choice to choose the Uchiha as the leader wasn't because they are the clan where the current Hokage originated from or some preferential treatment, but simply because they are undoubtedly the strongest clan in Konoha right now, even with their recent losses. Fugaku shook his head clearly in agreement while thinking inside about the plan he made with his clan members about how to handle that front since he won't be participating with them. Hopefully Shisui can make it work. The reaction of the other ninjas and clans concerned was the same, since this is the best scenario for them in this hopeless situation where death is probably a certain outcome, because at least they have the advantage of chakra nature and the help of the strongest clan in Konoha. Seeing no objection, Shikaku continued proposing his war strategy. To the east, we will be fighting Kiri, and I propose Jiraiya the Sannin to lead the Sarutobi clan to hold that front along with clans and ninjas skilled in earth release. You will be assisted by some ninjas that specialize in large-scale wind release to deal with their mist jutsu. Hiruzen's reaction was similar to Fugaku's and agreed with his clan shouldering the responsibility leading Konoha's forces to deal with a whole hidden village. As for Jiraiya, he's responsible for dealing with Yagura Karataki, the leader of Kiri as its Mizukage as well as the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails. Jiraiya was also chosen specifically for this mission thanks to his high mastery in seals to complete a secret mission that might help tilt the scales for this war. Next, Shikaku pointed at the northwest of the map. Regarding the Iwa front, the Ino-Shika-Cho alliance will lead all ninjas and clans that specialize in lightning release. They will also be assisted by medical nin and some ninjas that specialize in water release to counter their explosion jutsu. Their mission is to stall for time as long as possible until assistance is offered by the other forces. Shikaku said this with a heavy face, knowing that not many of his close friends are going to survive this war, him included. They were chosen for this front because Shikaku's strategies along with the seamless teamwork with the Yamanaka and Akamichi clans can buy them some time and lessen the number of casualties suffered while stalling for time. This front is also where Kushina will be heading to deal with the Jinchuriki of the Five Tails Han. Her mission is either to seal him or unseal the Five Tails Kokuo, causing chaos on the battlefield which will keep Onoki busy. As always, no one objected, so Shikaku continued saying, to the northeast, the Hyuga clan will lead the ninja and clans that specialize in wind release and taijutsu to deal with Kumo's invasion. They will also be assisted with fuinjutsu specialists to try to trap the Raikage and buy as much time as possible until assistance comes. Hiashi nodded at this, understanding that the reason for his clan to be chosen is because it's one of the strongest clans in Konoha, as well as him personally being possibly one of the only people that can follow up with the speed of the Raikage and defend against him in close range thanks to the Byakugan as well as the Hyuga's fighting style that specializes in defense in close range. Not to mention that the Raikage is basically unstoppable, so direct confrontation is inevitable. The other clans and ninja that are going to this front swallowed hard knowing that they are going to face a fearsome foe and nodded their heads. This is also the front where Kurama and I will be going, mainly to deal with Killer Bee and the Raikage. Hopefully without getting blind. Finally, Shikaku paused a little and pointed at the direction between northwest and the west. It is where the Land of Rain is located and where the attack of the Akatsuki, as well as the deserting clans, is expected to come from. He sighed and said, the deserters will be dealt with by the following clans: the Aburame, Inazuka, Shiranui, Yamashiro, Yuhi, Gecko, Kamazuki. Shikaku named many clans before he stopped and said, as for the Akatsuki members along with Danzo, we already prepared who to deal with them. Of course, they will be dealt with by Minato, Hiruzen, Mukai, Kakashi, and Fugaku. Hopefully, there won't be any more interference as this is as far as Konoha can go. Minato will also be playing the role of a transporter in case of an urgent situation where someplace might need assistance, so he will be equipped with one of our transmission devices. Meanwhile, outside the Hokage Tower, I just got information from Mukai about Tsunade's current location, which surprisingly was in the port town of Dagarashi in the Land of Tea, which is something unexpected for that woman, as it would be more logical to find her in the Land of the Drunk or the Land of Alcohol if those existed. I instructed Mukai to go attend the meeting and to tell Fugaku to come to meet me along with Minato to discuss how to contact Tsunade as urgently as possible, since getting her help in this war is very important. I also want to meet her to make some preparations for when I load from this timeline to make getting her cooperation smoother. With all these things decided, I simply waited in the now repaired Uchiha compound for Fugaku and Minato to visit, and it didn't take long for it to happen as suddenly they appeared in front of me out of thin air. How, you might ask? Well, I have one of Minato's special marked kune, so when the meeting was finished he directly tapped Fugaku, who kept looking weirdly at Mukai, clearly noticing the weird change in his character, and teleported directly to my location. The moment Fugaku realized where he was, he quickly went straight to the point and asked, Bakurio, what happened to Mukai and why did you want to meet us right now? You know how busy we are with the current situation. For his first question, I simply pointed at my eyes and he quickly understood what I meant as he started quickly thinking, does he have a similar ability to Shisui? No, Mukai seemed different. Shisui's ability doesn't affect a person's personality, his is probably a direct control. Minato simply looked at this calmly and didn't ask anything, as what concerned him is the answer to the second question, which I told him with a smile. Anyone could notice how empty it was. The reason you are here is that after Mukai betrayed me I learned from him the location of Tsunade. Betrayed you? Wait, Tsunade's location? This time they both just stared in shock and happiness. Finally, they received some good news. Minato and Fugaku felt conflicted and didn't know whether to feel happy at the news that Tsunade was discovered, or be concerned that Mukai betrayed Konoha again, so they asked at the same. Their answers showing the difference in their personalities. Are you okay, Bakurio-kun? Are you sure you know where Tsunade is? Clearly, Minato was the one that was nice enough to ask about my well-being, concerned if anything happened to me. Meanwhile, Fugaku asked about Tsunade's location, overwhelmed by the feeling that there's some hope for the village surviving its current situation. However, he quickly felt ashamed when he heard what Minato asked and noticed what he did, so he quickly tried to change his question. Is everything okay? I cut him off. Don't. I am fine, Minato. I nodded at Minato in appreciation for him worrying about me before I glanced at Fugaku sideways. Mukai is in control now, so you don't need to worry about him completing his mission to deal with Kisame. As for Tsunade's location, she's currently taking residence in the Land of Tea. More specifically, in the Dagarashi port town located on its eastern coast. Their eyes started shining in excitement and Fugaku asked again to make sure, are you sure Tsunade's there? I quickly summarized to them what happened. Yes, Mukai can't lie to me, he met her there and asked her to heal his son. That's when she told him that his son probably suffers from a terminal disease and doesn't have much longer to survive. However, she can't simply heal him using medical ninjutsu and said that she needs some advanced medical equipment that can only be found in the Land of Lightning, so he chose to betray me. Hearing that Mukai only did it for his ill son, Minato sympathized with him a little. Still, he could have chosen a better course of action and relied on the village, so he can't be forgiven for his actions. Meanwhile, Fugaku didn't care and said, good, we should quickly contact her and make sure we bring her back before the war. Then he turned to Minato and said, Minato, you will be tasked with this since you are the fastest ninja in Konoha. Please take care of this as soon as possible. Minato nodded at him with a smile. Leave it to me, I will do my best to convince her to come back. A voice quickly interjected in their conversation. I will come with you, I can help you in convincing her. Minato looked at me in surprise, but then he remembered Mukai's current state and decided not to ask any question about it and simply nodded. Let's get going then. I found myself getting picked up and before realizing anything. Swoosh, the scenery around us quickly changed and we were already in a jungle I didn't recognize. Where are? Before I could finish my question, Minato quickly threw a kunai and teleported to it. Swoosh, when we appeared again he answered me. We are at the south border of the land of fire. What? This ability is really broken. We are basically already in the land of tea, and it seems that Minato has this location already branded. He really deserves his nickname as the Yellow Flash. Again my thoughts were interrupted and we quickly traveled from the north of the land of tea to the middle at unbelievable speed. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In merely minutes after we left Konoha, we were already in the beautiful port Dagarashi. This port is a very popular location for tourists, which is probably why Tsunade came here around 2 weeks ago. The Wasabi and Wagarashi families controlled local operations and policed the town, which led to a conflict of interest between the two, especially with the increasing popularity of the town, which led to many skirmishes between them. These conflicts would go as far as to include the town's citizens, often causing casualties. So how can this place be popular for tourism? Only God knows. After we landed inside the town, we both didn't waste any time and quickly used the shadow clone jutsu to make our search easier. Let's search all the legal and illegal gambling places first before we search in the inns. Okay, said Minato, who knew Tsunade's obsession with money pretty well. Agreed, shadow clone jutsu. We both used this jutsu to widen our searching scope. Swoosh swoosh, and so we both flickered away along with our shadow clones to search for her, and it didn't take long before one of my clones spotted a commotion inside one of the illegal gambling places. Curious, he moved closer and he saw some people that looked like thugs begging a woman to leave their place. This woman is fair-skinned with brown eyes and straight blonde hair that parts above her forehead. Her hair has shoulder-length bangs that frame her face and the rest reaches her lower back. A violet diamond shape was clearly visible on her forehead. However, the most distinguishing feature anyone could notice from a mile away is her clearly big, enormous, and I repeat, enormous breasts. Of course, this was none other than the famous Sanin herself and the only Senju still alive, Tsunade, and right now she was drunk and arguing with these thugs while being held back by her apprentice Shizune. Shizune is a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with onyx eyes and jet black hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder length with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. She was wearing a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. Madam, please leave our humble place and go gamble somewhere else, said one of the thug-looking men in a fearful voice while glancing from time to time at his friend that foolishly tried to use force against this woman and got punched in the stomach. Just why is this troublemaker here of all places? The thug felt like crying while looking at the drunk Tsunade. Hua, am I not good enough for your stupid gamble huckling pla huxi? Said the drunk Tsunade while waving her fist in the air, trying to appear threatening, but it made her look harmless to the onlookers. If only they couldn't see the thugs squirming from pain on the ground. The thugs looked helpless at this and didn't know what to say, but the polite Shizune quickly came to their saving and said, Tsunade-sama, please behave yourself. Then she bowed and said, I am sorry for the trouble everyone, your friend should be fine after some time. Let go Tsunade-sama. Tsunade tried to resist and kept ranting, I want to gamble some more. But Shizune didn't listen to her and dragged her to the direction of the inn they stay in while thinking sadly, just why can't Tsunade-sama quit these bad habits? As they approached a slightly empty street, the drunk look on Tsunade's face suddenly vanished and turned sharp as she stood up straight and looked in the direction of a kid staring at her from the top of a building with narrowed eyes. How can I feel such a high level of a threat from a kid? Tsunade was shocked, but that feeling quickly disappeared like it never existed, and the kid, which Shizune also noticed by now, jumped from the building and landed in front of them. Meanwhile, as I was mid-air, I couldn't help but think, nothing less to be expected from such a legendary ninja. You let off so little bad intention, yet you get quickly detected, huh? Hi Tsunade, and Shizune, I have been trying to find you for a long time, I said with a smile. Finally, I am about to arrange the last piece of the puzzle. Tsunade, who still had a slight amount of alcohol in her system clear from the blush of her cheeks that didn't fade away, looked at the kid that landed in front of her with an eerily calm look in his eyes. Who's this kid? He seems too young to be a ninja and he isn't wearing a forehead protector. But from his black hair and eyes, he might be from Konoha's Uchiha clan, Tsunade thought while still a little on guard because of the threat she felt earlier. Meanwhile, Shizune innocently looked at the kid in front of them who knew their names and asked curiously, "Who are you and how do you know our names? And why do you say you have been searching for us?" Hearing her barrage of questions and knowing that this wasn't a place to talk, I briefly explained to them the situation and why I was here. I am Bakurio Uchiha. I am sure this answers your first two questions. As for the last one, I suggest we go somewhere else to discuss this. My friend will also be arriving soon. Shizune felt relaxed a little as I showed them my Sharingan to confirm my identity as an Uchiha. Tsunade, however, didn't feel the same as she angrily said, "So what? Did that brat Fugaku send you and your friend to ask me to come back? You better leave quickly, I don't have time to waste. Is she still drunk or what?" I thought and was about to retort, however at this time Minato, who was contacted by one of my clones, suddenly appeared beside me, startling both Tsunade and Shizune. How is this possible? Tsunade was shocked as she clearly recognized what jutsu the man used to appear in front of them like this. But the only people that can use it are the fourth Hokage and her great uncle, and they are both dead, so how's this possible? Why you? Tsunade stuttered a little, and for an instant, she thought she was still drunk and imagining things as she looked at this unfamiliar man who was smiling at her warmly. "Hi Tsunade-sama, it's been a long time," said Minato. Shizune looked at this man that appeared out of nowhere suspiciously, then she looked at Tsunade, who seemed to be confused, and asked, "Tsunade-sama, do you know this man?" Tsunade looked at Shizune and shook her head. "No, I don't know him, however the way he appeared I can clearly tell is the Flying Thunder God Jutsu." What? Shizune's eye opened in surprise. Isn't this jutsu only used by the 4th and 2nd Hokage? How is this man using it? Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. Tsunade nodded back at her. Minato looked at this helplessly as these two are debating his jutsu and ignored both him and Bakurio, but even though he was well-tempered and gave them some time to think, Bakurio wasn't. "Oi, you two can have all the conversations you want later. We need a proper place to talk as we don't have much time to waste here," I said with a frown. Hearing the rude way I was talking, Tsunade almost snapped at me and came to beat me, but she felt the situation was indeed weird and she wanted to understand it, so she said, "I hope your explanation satisfies me, otherwise." She smiled wickedly at the end of her sentence while clenching her fist, making the air tremble in the process from the sheer force. "Better not get hit by this one," I thought as I looked at this dangerous woman, while Minato looked apologetic and said, "I'm sorry, but the situation is really urgent." And so we quickly started running in the direction of a secluded place in a forest outside the port town to make sure no one overhears our conversation. During the whole journey, which didn't take long, I could see that Tsunade was always on guard and was always in a position where she could protect herself and Shizune, which I thought was really amazing and something only a ninja that experienced being chased down many times could do. When we arrived and confirmed no one was, looked at us and closed her arm near her chest, causing it to appear even bigger, before she said, "First of all, who are you?" This question was directed toward Minato, who simply smiled and started saying, "It's a long story." He started saying that he was actually Minato and narrated how he sealed some of his chakra inside of Naruto and how he recovered his soul later from the Death Reaper, and then he explained that he was using the famous spirit transformation jutsu to possess another body, which is why she couldn't recognize him. Tsunade and Shizune were at first shocked at hearing that the man standing in front of them is the 4th Hokage himself. However, that shock quickly turned into sadness when Tsunade heard that he was using the spirit transformation jutsu, which was the trademark jutsu of her dead lover Dan Koto, and it caused many of her unpleasant memories to re-emerge. She quickly hid her sadness in the deepest part of her heart, something that didn't escape our notice, especially Shizune, who was very familiar with her before she said, "Please transfer some of your chakra to me." Minato nodded at this and did as she asked. What Tsunade's trying to do is check Minato's chakra signature, which is something unique to each individual and Can't be faked, especially to someone like her who's unmatched at manipulating chakra, and this is simply to confirm his identity as she knows his chakra signature from before he was dead. After sensing Minato's chakra, Tsunade finally put down her guard completely and said, "It's really you, Minato. I am glad to see you again." Minato was a very respected Hokage thanks to his great achievements, but gained even more respect after his heroic sacrifice to protect Konoha. This is a true living hero. "I am sorry I couldn't be there during the Nine Tails incident." Tsunade had an apologetic look as Minato and his wife would have probably survived if she was there at that time, but he simply shook his head and smiled at her. "We can't change what happened," Minato continued with a serious face, "but the situation really needs you right now." Tsunade quickly picked up on the urgency of what he was saying and she started feeling that something was happening with her, still unaware. "What's wrong? Is this why you were searching for me?" She couldn't help but remember when I said I have been trying to find her for a long time. Minato's face turned solemn and said, "Konoha might be destroyed after 2 days. What? Is someone going to unseal the Nine Tails again?" asked Tsunade in bewilderment, as even if that happened, Minato is kind of alive and can handle it. "No, it's worse. It seems that you are not up to date with what's happening in Konoha recently," said Minato. "I know some things like the clans that deserted and the new Hokage, since it's a huge discussion topic everywhere, but that's all. Please explain to me what happened," said Tsunade. In the end, as much as she tries to deny her love for that village, she just can't, as it was her home and the place she grew up in. Not to mention it was the place her grandpa struggled his whole life to create to bring peace to the land of fire, so she can't stand it being destroyed. However, I thought, it seems old age affected her views in the future. This was quite easy, or was it because she respected Minato and he reminded her of her grandfather? I need to make sure of this in the future. Meanwhile, Minato simply nodded at her, happy to sense her concern for the village, and said, "Here's what happened." Hearing Minato's explanation about the events that occurred in Konoha right after Fugaku became the Hokage, Tsunade couldn't help but pity how unlucky that man was. As a new Hokage, he had to deal with one tragedy after another, and now Konoha was at the risk of being destroyed during his rule, making him the unluckiest Hokage, probably having it worse even more than Minato. So, hearing that the situation was being pushed towards an all-out war against Konoha, Tsunade finally understood the severity of the situation, and surprisingly she willingly said with a sigh, "I will go back with you to Konoha and help you face this war, but whether my help can change the outcome or not, I can't guarantee it." Hearing her answer, Minato was overjoyed. After all, who wouldn't? When you have the support of such a great healing ninja on the battlefield. Add to that the help of her summon Katsuyu. It will help greatly reduce the casualties of Konoha's ninjas in this war and raise their morale. The only unfortunate thing is that there isn't enough time to find a way to recover Minato's and Kushina's bodies or make new ones for them, leaving them limited with the power they could exert with only the spirit transformation jutsu and its possession application. Otherwise, Tsunade could have played a bigger role in ensuring Konoha's survival. Unfortunately, time waits for no one unless you can command it. Meanwhile, I was quite surprised at Tsunade's response once more. How come she agreed so fast, unlike the way she reacted in canon? Was it because of the urgency of the situation? Or is it just because she isn't in the same emotional state like she was during canon? Well, either way, less work for me. I shrugged before I looked at Shizune, who seemed nervous at going to war. This girl is probably only 18 at this time and she only became a ninja after she started following Tsunade, so she probably never experienced much conflict in her life, especially under Tsunade's protection, so hearing that Tsunade's going to such a terrible war is probably nerve-wracking for her. It seemed that Tsunade also noticed Shizune's current state and I couldn't help but think, here begins the drama. "Shizune, you will stay here and hide until I come back from the war, understood?" said Tsunade, trying to appear like a stern teacher. Shizune became flustered when she understood that her nervousness was noticed. What are you saying, Tsunade-sama? "I will follow you no matter where you go." Even though she was nervous, she finished her sentence with a determined look, clearly meaning what she said, causing a look of satisfaction to appear on Tsunade's face, causing her to puff her chest from the pride she felt for her student. I raised a good girl, before she noticed from the side of her eyes a small kid that was yawning at their interaction as if he was watching a boring show, causing some dark lines to appear on her face which Shizune misunderstood as Tsunade dissatisfied with her answer, so she quickly said, "Tsunade-sama, please let me come with you. Even though I still have a lot to learn from you, I can still offer great help during this war. Please let me accompany you." This time she said it with even more determination and even bowed. Tsunade looked at this silly girl with a warm look she rarely reveals and said, "Idiot, of course I am taking you with me. It's a good chance for you to gain some experience, but you won't be going to the front lines, understood?" Shizune tried to say she can fight, but a glare from Tsunade shut her up and she said instead, "Why yes Tsunade-sama, yawn asterisk, are you done now?" I said with my hand covering my mouth as I yawned. I wonder how many people yawned when they read this. Minato looked at me helplessly, while Tsunade finally couldn't hold herself back anymore as veins appeared on her forehead and she directly threw a punch at my head. Seeing the scary punch coming my way, my bored expression disappeared. Instead, only seriousness replaced it as I could feel the air bending from the force, speed, and friction resulting from this punch, and I didn't want to imagine the consequences of it hitting me anywhere on my body, not to mention she was targeting my head. I quickly tried to sidestep to the right to dodge it, but surprisingly, Tsunade didn't slow down her punch at all and changed its direction midair. What terrifying control and reaction speed. However, you still can't react as fast as me, I thought before I tilted my head to the left and dodged this terrifying punch while sending some chakra to my face to protect it from the wind generated by this punch. Boom! The wind from that punch slammed into the ground, causing a small indentation on it, making me feel a shiver running down my spine. However, two people were feeling even more of a chill than me. They are Tsunade and Shizune, as Tsunade simply looked at her hand and thought, "Did a kid just dodge my punch?" Even though she was holding back and was intending to stop right before she hit him, using her great control to disperse the wind from her punch without affecting him. The result caused her a deep shock. The Uchiha clan are really terrifying, and this kid didn't even use a Sharingan. Shizune looked at the ground and some fear started rising in her heart, not because of the power of Tsunade which she already knows about. No, it was from the kid that could dodge such an attack so skillfully at such a young age. This kid is a monster. Just how strong is he going to be when he grows up? This thought made her pray silently that he doesn't become another Orochimaru. "Tsunade-sama, please calm down. We can't get Bakurio injured here. His help will be greatly needed during the war. Minato stepped between us to stop this conflict. What do you mean by this?" Tsunade regained her calm and frowned, hearing a kid will have to join such a cruel war. After all, being skilled is one thing, but it doesn't mean a kid has to be forced to do such a thing like killing or surviving for his life at such a young age. Minato, who understood this, simply shook his head and said, "I understand what you are feeling right now, but we are very lacking in manpower. I will explain to you why we accepted his request to join the war later, but for now we need to go back to Konoha first." Hearing that there was a reason for me to join the war, Tsunade gave me a deep look and asked me, "Why do you want to join in the war?" Why I never thought I would get attached to the people of this world to the point I would go to a war to gain experience and risk getting traumatized. However, I believe it is worth it. I thought before I simply remembered the faces of a woman and kids and said with a sigh, because my heart was touched. Hearing my reason for joining the war, Tsunade didn't know what to say as my tired sigh reminded her of her terrible past and suffering, but seeing it coming from a kid perplexed her. However, Minato simply looked at this sadly for some reason. "Minato, can you take us all back to Konoha?" I said, trying to change the subject. Minato shook his head. "Unfortunately I can't. Tsunade-sama naturally has incredible chakra reserves. Add to that the additional huge amount stored inside her strength of 100 seal. I won't be able to teleport her back to Konoha with this weak body alone, so we will have to travel back on foot." "Okay. It won't take us too long if we travel at full speed anyways," I responded, while inside I was thinking that it's really good to set some time and learn this rank S Fuinjutsu in the future, which could even make a hopeless case like Sakura somehow useful. I believe Minato too could have learned this jutsu and became even stronger. Unfortunately, modifying and mastering the Flying Thunder God Jutsu as well as the Third Ninja War took most of his focus. Add to that time wasn't his friend as he died too young, 24. Otherwise, with his level of talent, He could have become a scary character, possibly even reaching Hashirama's level of power. We started heading back to the village, and on our way, I couldn't help but ask Tsunade, "Hey Tsunade, how long did it take for you to master the strength of 100 seal?" Tsunade understood how coveted such a jutsu is, so this question didn't surprise her. It didn't take me long to master it because by the time I met all the requirements needed for it. However, it took me years of studying and experimentations in both medical ninjutsu and fuinjutsu to create it. I guess this is logical. The same way it took Minato years to create the Rasengan, but a dense kid like Naruto can learn it in a bit more than a month, I thought, and then asked her another question. What are the requirements to learn it? Tsunade thought it was a good time to get back at me, so she smirked and said, "None." Seeing her attitude, it was my time to get angry. "What do you mean none? You just said you met all the requirements when you created it." Tsunade's smirk widened and she said, "Oh, you misunderstood me, I meant that I am not teaching it to you, so you don't need to meet any requirements." This beach, I almost attacked her, seeing that she was toying with me, but I quickly calmed down and an innocent smile came to my face. Shizune felt helpless at this duo, while Minato felt something ominous was going to happen when he saw my smile and thought that this wasn't going to be a peaceful trip. Minato's intuition was quickly confirmed when he heard me say, "Oh, I guess it's only right for an old fossil like you to forget her own jutsu and can't teach it anymore. Don't worry, it's understandable." Hearing what I said, Tsunade unconsciously used too much force and crushed the ground under her as she sent me a deadly look. No, never insult a woman with her age, especially this one. Minato and Shizune both screamed in their minds, but it was too late as they saw Tsunade quickly running after the annoying kid while yelling, "You better not let me catch you, little brat." I felt a chill behind me and almost regretted what I said. Nah, she started it first, I thought, and I quickly started running for my life away from this natural disaster, turning the previously peaceful journey into a heated chase all the way back to Konoha. Back at Konoha, two special Jonin wearing Konoha's standard outfits, one of them a Hyuga, were standing guard in front of Konoha's huge entrance, vigilantly watching for any enemy that might be lurking around, until suddenly one of them, the nun Hyuga, felt a faint vibration in the ground, so he turned to his colleague and said, "Did you feel that?" The Hyuga special Jonin looked at him questionably and shook his head. "I didn't feel anything." The first Jonin was sure he wasn't imagining things, so he said, "I am sure I felt the ground vibe." Before he could finish his sentence, this time they both felt the ground clearly shaking, and they heard a loud muffled sound far away in the distance, along with some dust rising to the air, making them raise their guard and become prepared to sound the alarm at any time. The Hyuga quickly activated his Byakugan to see what's happening, causing veins to appear all around his eyes, and what he saw left him speechless. "What did you see?" his colleague asked, and he replied with a helpless look, "You will see soon." Perplexed, he waited, and soon the sound of explosions grew closer and closer until finally from outside the tree line two people appeared, leaving a huge cloud of dust behind them. They were a black-haired boy and a woman. He quickly recognized the boy as Bakurio, who's quite famous in the village. As for the woman, he looked at his friend in shock and said, "Aye, is that Tsunade the Sannin?" His friend gulped and nodded when he saw her fierce expression, chasing the kid and leaving only destruction in her trail. I ran as fast as I could, and seeing that I was near the gate, I was about to heave a sigh of relief. "Oof, finally safe, FK me." That's when suddenly two more Tsunades appeared in front of me. Did she send clones ahead just so she can intercept me? The only reason she couldn't catch me yet is that I used every possible trick in the book, from attacking her to transforming into other objects to using clones to distract her, or at least that's what I thought. Yet she always seemed to see through my tricks, and I was perplexed why she didn't catch me using her full power, but only when we neared Konoha did I understand her true intentions. She's probably worried, so she wanted to test me before the war, huh? However, I never expected her to use such a trick and catch me right when I felt some relief and almost reached Konoha. As for what followed when she caught me, it is obvious, I received a good old nice beating from her. I hope you learn from this lesson and never let your guard down in the future, thought Tsunade, standing beside Minato with an appreciative look on her face as her three clones were beating this kid. She really accepted the strength of this kid during this small journey and thought that Minato and Fugaku weren't totally heartless in allowing him to join the war. As for Minato, he understood her intention, so he simply sighed and said, Let's go. Fugaku-san is waiting for us. They quickly flickered away, leaving Shizune behind, who came to heal me. When they reached the Hokage Tower, someone with a perverted look quickly yelled, "Tsunade. I missed you." Of course, it was Jiraiya who came running trying to hug Tsunade, which resulted in him receiving a kick in the stomach that sent him flying away with his eyes bulging out. "You never change, Jiraiya," said Tsunade with a smile, and there was also a hard-to-notice smile on Jiraiya's face. This was the reunion of these two old friends. And now with Konoha gaining a new ally, only war was left. 3 days later, Konoha's forces were deployed as planned, with the only difference being Tsunade and Shizune, who joined Iwa's battlefield since they lacked in cage-level ninja. I was currently inside a camp in the Land of Hot Water. This land was the battlefield where the war between Konoha and Kumo was going to take place. The Land of Hot Water has its own hidden village named Yugakure, which literally means the village hidden in hot water. Like the country in which it resides, this hidden village is also famous for having a strong inclination for pacifism, and they pride themselves as the village that forgotten wars. This is also the village Hidan, a future member of the Akatsuki and also a follower of Jashin that believed in violence, originated from and became a missing nin of after they decided to keep on following their peaceful ways. Clearly, they decided not to be involved in the war to the displeasure of Kumo under the condition that they don't fight in places populated with civilians, which Konoha gladly agreed to as they already have plenty of enemies. As for the daimyo of the Land of Hot Water, he knew he couldn't afford to provoke either Kumo or Konoha, so he reluctantly turned a blind eye as long as they followed with Yuga's condition. Currently, I was inside the biggest tent in the camp, which is used for meetings, strategizing, and relaying orders along with the other Jonin. Hiashi, as the leader of this mission, was addressing how to deal with the current situation. According to the reports, Kumo's forces already passed the Land of Frost and they are already in the territory of the Land of Hot Waters. Our scouts reported spotting at least 8,000 ninjas in total, led by the 4th Raikage A and the 8 Tails current Jinchuriki B. Everyone took a deep breath when they heard this news, and remembering their pathetic 2,000 shinobi forces compared to 8,000. Hiashi quickly continued reporting the current situation. The 2 Tails Jinchuriki, Yugido Ni, wasn't seen among the forces, so we believe they left her behind to protect Kumo, so at least we won't have to deal with her. This news didn't raise anyone's morale as they are still shaken by their enemy's forces. However, Hiashi knew what he was doing and now he was planning to tell them the real good news. I am sure everyone is feeling distressed by the difference in power, but do not worry, we are not alone. Everyone in the tent looked at him perplexed, but they soon heard some noise coming from outside the tent and could see from the open curtains that a huge fox was walking in their direction, accompanied by some Jonins from the Hyuga clan, causing fear in the hearts of everyone. When was this monster freed? Wasn't it sealed by the 4th Hokage? How is it here? We are doomed. Panic and fear started traveling throughout the camp, but Hiashi quickly stepped outside the tent and yelled at the top of his voice so that everyone could hear him. Everyone fears not. It's true, the enemy has the Raikage and the 8 Tails in their ranks, so what, we have the 9 Tails, the strongest of all tailed beasts, to assist in this war. Disbelief was written on the faces of every single ninja, but soon that disbelief turned into unimaginable happiness, a happiness that can only come from having your worst nightmare turning into your ally. The morale of all of Konoha's ninjas in the camp soared to the sky when they saw Kurama standing proudly beside the commanding tent, clearly not here to be their enemy, validating what Hiashi, their commander, just said, making their adrenaline rise to dangerous levels. Soon enough, a booming war cry echoed throughout the camp and continued to travel in the Land of Hot Water. The will of fire will never burn out. Inside the tent, I closed my ears to not let them get tainted by that BS slogan. But still, I have to say that this atmosphere was contagious, and I also felt my body filled with energy and a strong will to fight. So this is a battlefield, huh? I immersed myself in this priceless experience filled with camaraderie, hope and sacrifice, which I knew will turn bloody very soon. After the ninjas calmed down a little, Hiashi returned to the tent and looked at the now excited captains, and started to explain to them the plan Shikaku came up with to facilitate for them, stalling for time as much as possible. This news of Kurama joining the battlefield was broadcasted on all the fronts, resulting in Konoha's morale reaching the highest possible, which was the intended effect. However, what wasn't intended is for Zetsu, who's spreading his clones on every battlefield, to get hold of this news. As for how it's going to change the state of events, only the future will show. 1 hour later the scouts finally detected a shift in Kumo's movement and we quickly received the news that they are finally initiating their attack. The plan that Shikaku came up with was simple but very effective. He ordered for the Fuinjutsu specialists to not only try to set up a barrier to trap the Raikage or the Eight Tails Jinchuriki inside of it, but to also take advantage of the Land of Waters, which is a heavily forested territory. They already set up all kinds of traps on the way Kumo's ninjas will be traveling to reach here, which will cause some disturbances to appear among their ranks. Konoha's forces that were sent here and specialize in wind release have the advantage over Kumo's lightning release, are of course going to take advantage of the opportunities these traps are going to open and use guerrilla tactics to chip away at Kumo's forces bit by bit. However, for those to succeed, both the Raikage and Killer Bee needs to be drawn out from the main forces, and that's going to be easily achieved by Kurama and me. Hiashi issued the command to attack and Konoha's forces quickly rushed out in small teams consisting of a taijutsu specialist, a fuinjutsu specialist, and a wind release specialist to initiate their guerrilla tactics while I jumped on top of Kurama's head and we rushed together outside the forest. I activated my Sharingan and using it along with my strong senses, I quickly found the location of the enemy forces. However, Kurama was even quicker than me. And without even saying anything he opened his mouth and started gathering positive black chakra and negative white chakra in a ratio of 8:2. Soon a huge black orb of almost 10 meters in diameter appeared in front of Kurama's still open mouth, and without hesitation, he sent in the direction of Kumo's forces. "Kid, watch the power of the strongest tailed beast," said Kurama smugly as that bomb traveled at a very fast speed, unstoppable as it destroyed everything in its way, leaving a long trail behind it. "Indeed, I really want to see the extent of your power," I thought as I watched intently at the tailed beast bomb flying through the air, officially declaring the start of the war. At Kumo's army, the Raikage was issuing orders to the troops and instructing the censors to keep a lookout for any traps or enemies hiding in the trees, and beside him stood his brother Killer Bee, the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. Killer Bee didn't agree with this war and even tried to not join it, saying that he wanted to stay back at Kumo to protect it. However, his big brother denied his request and said that Yugito will be taking care of Kumo in their absence, and his presence in the war is necessary to minimize their casualties. He closed his eyes and appeared inside a dark space where he saw a huge octopus-like creature. This was Gyuki, or better known as the Eight Tails. Gyuki is a ushi oni, a yokai from Japanese folklore, with 4 long horns on its head, similar to that of a Jacob sheep. As a tailed beast, it is extremely massive in size to the point that it dwarfs entire forests. The lower left part of its horns was sliced off in a battle with A. This battle was caused by Orochimaru, who orchestrated the events that led to Blue Bee's death, Gyuki's previous Jinchuriki, by posing as his doctor and giving him genjutsu-inducing pills to paralyze him, and proceeded to use the 5 elements unsealing jutsu to draw out the tailed beast. This resulted in Gyuki going berserk, killing 8 Kumo ninjas in the process and forcing the current Raikage to stop it on his own and then seal it in the Kohaku no Johei amber purifying pot. The Kohaku no Johei is revered as one of the treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths. It's a large orange pot with a stylized kanji for lightning lei that has the ability to seal anyone within it if the target responds when called by the wielder of the pot. If the person responds, the pot records their voice and then seals them. Even Kurama described it as a powerful tool that whatever is sealed into it cannot escape. However, it's very demanding to use and consumes an enormous amount of chakra, resulting most of the time in its wielder's death. Gyuki also has a muscular upper body structure, with a hunched back similar to an American bison, arms with spiked protrusions on the elbows, and hands with opposable thumbs like that of a human. Instead of hind legs, its lower half consists of its 8 tails, which resemble the cephalopod arms of an octopus. These tails will grow back in the event they are sliced off without taking a long time, unlike its horns. Killer Bee entered his mind space to rant on his frustrations to Gyuki, so he said while rapping, "Yo Gyuki, I want to ask a question. Do you have any objection?" "What's wrong, Bee? Are you still worried about the war?" asked Gyuki with a deep voice. Killer Bee responded again while rapping, "Yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. So I will be upfront with ya and ask it outright. I am troubled by this war. It's ripping my heart ajar. My heart isn't made of ice. That's why the pain I feel is twice more than any could feel. I wish this situation was not real. I can understand how you feel. Yuki sighed before he continued. Let's just hope there will be fewer wars in the future. Killer Bee lowered his head and was contemplating his brother's choice in joining this war and to strike while the iron is still hot, as he put it, but soon something broke his concentration and both he and Yuki raised their heads and looked in a direction some slight distance away from Konoha's camp. This chakra. They looked at each other worriedly and they had the same ominous feeling that something bad was going to happen, and they were right because out of nowhere they felt a huge amount of chakra rushing towards the direction of their army. Bee quickly intercept it, it's a tailed beast bomb. Yuki yelled inside of Bee's mind and didn't hesitate as he transformed into his massive 8 tails form, then quickly planted his muscular hands on the ground and swung all of his 8 tentacles at the huge bomb to try to redirect its flying path. Meanwhile, the rest of Kumo's ninja were looking at this attack in despair as it didn't leave them any time to respond, arriving in front of them in the blink of an eye. Only the strongest Jonin and sensors were capable of detecting it beforehand, and now they were witnessing their Jinchuriki struggling to redirect it away. After some struggle, Bee roared and used all of his physical strength along with the support of Yuki before he was capable of redirecting this massive attack, leaving him slightly panting while the bomb continued its flight, now in a different direction heading towards a mountain. As for the result, boom, the sound of a huge explosion echoed as a spherical blue explosion emanated from the mountain that was hit, erasing it in the process and creating huge winds affecting everyone in the vicinity. The sight of a mountain getting erased made everyone stop for a second, and they soon saw the cause of this incident. A 100 meters tall fox appeared in the distance and was eyeing their army with its crimson eyes and 9 tails swirling behind its back, with a not so noticeable kid was standing on top of its right shoulder. Was that all you've got, Kurama? I said in a voice that only Kurama could hear, wanting to confirm something. However, his response was heard by everyone as he laughed in a loud voice, ha 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 ha. Kid, I am barely warming up. I could guess so much. I thought before I looked at the enemy army and yelled in a loud voice. Raikage and Killer Bee, come over here if you don't want your army slaughtered. Looked at me and veins started popping on his head as he thought while gnashing his teeth. A kid actually dares to provoke me, but he knew that the 9 tails must be dealt with as soon as possible. Just when did Konoha gain control of this monster? He thought in anger at this fatal lack of information that even those creepy Akatsuki members didn't know, but he quickly calmed down and activated his ruthless fight mode. His body started getting enveloped in lightning nature chakra, increasing his physical attributes, strength, agility, as well as stimulating his nervous system, enhancing its speed and its reaction time. And also works as a very strong armor to defend against attack. This was A's famous ninjutsu, lightning release chakra mode, which thanks to his huge amount of chakra that equaled to that of a tailed beast, allowed him to perform nintaijutsu and made him arguably the strongest living ninja currently. Seeing his big brother like this, Killer Bee knew he was getting serious and he quickly got his confirmation. Let's go seal that big fox and see what makes that kid so arrogant to provoke us, and don't be reckless, said A as lightning crackled around him. However, he was the first to act recklessly, as before B could respond, he transformed into a bolt of lightning, instantly appearing in front of the kid. Say that again, kid, said A while sending a terrifying punch at the kid's face, showing no mercy. For an instant, the crimson glow from the kid's eyes clashed with the lightning from the Raikage's eyes. I was shocked at the terrifying speed the Raikage could reach, as he took no time to appear in front of me, truly like a bolt of lightning. Even Kurama couldn't react in time, not to mention me, as I could simply look at his lightning-encased punch approaching my face slowly, and it hit him right on the nose, breaking it and causing blood to splatter everywhere from my face and sending me flying off of Kurama's shoulder. Falling from something that's 100 meters tall is no joke, especially when you are punched by someone like the Raikage, so the kid ended up going through many trees before he finally smashed into the ground, caving it in and raising a huge cloud of dust in the process. Seeing me getting damaged, the slit in Kurama's pupils contracted and a vicious aura started radiating from him as he tried to use his left claw to tear it into pieces. However, I saw his attack coming from a mile away and stepped on Kurama's shoulder, using it to jump back to the ground, dodging his attack in the process while thinking, one down, one more to go, this is war, and I wasn't going to let any unknown variable get in his way, especially in the presence of such a dangerous opponent like the Nine Tails. Unfortunately for him, as much caution as he wants to take. The kid he attacked wasn't that easy to deal with either, and unknown to A, who was now preoccupied with fighting the Nine Tails. That same kid appeared in front of his brother's way. Yo, kiddo, scram to the side before I kill you, said B, who was still in his 8 tails form and was trying to rush to help his brother fight against the 9 tails. I am not going anywhere, Killer B, I said as my eyes turned into my Mangekyo Sharingan, making Yuki quickly warn B, be careful. This kid is not normal. He actually used a shadow clone to draw your brother to fight Kurama, meaning he's probably confident to fight us and is very good at scheming. But more importantly, be careful of his eyes you say. What worry is there for me, Hai? Replied Killer B, who also wasn't going to underestimate this kid that was capable of tricking his brother. These eyes are the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan, and they gain them when they suffer very strong emotional trauma, granting them different abilities from one member to another. I can also feel a strong unnatural aura of death emanating from this kid, so be extra careful, said Yuki, who was ready to help B at any moment. Gotcha, said B before he left his mind space and observed the kid and the weird atmosphere around him with a frown, especially when he heard that he must have gone through a terrible life resulting in the awakening of his Mangekyo Sharingan. However, he can't show sympathy, especially with his brother fighting the strongest tailed beast on his own, so he reverted back from his full-tailed beast transformation to not exhaust his chakra back to a simple tailed beast mode covered with a red bubbling chakra and 8 tails stretching behind him. This should be enough to deal with this kid and check out his powers, thought B, and during all this, the kid didn't move at all, only and waited for B to finish his preparations. That's when he said, Killer B, have a taste of death, Yomi no Kuni. Blood started dripping from my left eye and suddenly 4 black chains covered in a heavy aura of death appeared out of thin air. These chains didn't reflect light, or maybe they simply brought it to a different realm, a realm of death. B, dodge those chains at any cost, yelled Yuki at the top of his voice when he saw how creepy those chains were, and they quickly attacked B at a terrifying speed. B could barely hear his friend's voice because he was overwhelmed with a feeling of fear, a feeling that surprisingly started at the same time the kid's other eye started bleeding, so he used his great speed and agility to barely dodge the 4 chains that were heading to his vital areas. The aura of death emanating from those chains was so powerful and ominous to the point that even I felt it while fighting Kurama, causing him to look at it, and this small distraction caused him to get smashed to the ground. But one of Kurama's attacks. My attacks were relentless as the chains of death kept following B wherever he went, but surprisingly he was always able to dodge them, making me frown at how strong and fast this guy is, so I decided to add more pressure. I took out 3 lethal kunai and encased them in chakra before I threw them at Killer B. Even if the poison doesn't affect you, you will still be distracted enough for my chains to get you, I thought as I quickly did some hand signs. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. My 3 lethal kunai started multiplying in the air from 3 to 6, and then they became 12, which was my limit with this jutsu. Then I took a deep breath before I exhaled, casting the wind release. Great breakthrough jutsu, creating a very strong wind which helped raise the speed of my kunai dramatically. Good enough, I thought, and I was prepared to manipulate them with my slithering throwing jutsu to take B by surprise. However, B wasn't phased at all and took out 7 short blades that have a red handle, and he held them in a very weird posture because surprisingly, none of them was held directly in his hands. Instead they were held in between the joints of his arms, under his armpits, bending his knees, and another one in his mouth. Then, he simply started spinning in a very calculated way, and no matter how I tried to change the direction of the kunai, his terrifying reaction speed and agility allowed him to deflect all of them while dodging my chains at the same time. I started feeling the stress from extensively using my chains of death, and I was annoyed even more because I can tell that he also noticed these changes and was waiting for the opportunity when I am too tired and end up messing up. Meanwhile, Killer B was looking at one of his short blades, which he allowed to make a very brief contact with one of the chains, and he noticed that part became so rusted it seemed that it might disintegrate at any moment. Yo Yuki, you're right, I better be careful. If those chains touch me, the outcome would be dreadful. Killer B rapped while feeling some fear and thanking his luck that he reverted back to this form, which makes it easier for him to dodge such attacks, unlike his full transformation. Yes B, and I can see that this kid's body is simply too weak and it's taking a huge toll on him to manipulate those chains. Otherwise, they might have been much stronger, Yuki replied seriously but more relaxed as he now saw that B can deal with this danger. You are right. Before B could reply, he noticed the kid clutching his left eye and he seemed to lose control of the chains and was about to fall down. Good chance, thought B. Suddenly he used the lightning release. Chakra mode jutsu similar to the Raikage, raising his speed to terrifying levels, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Bakurio and used a chopping hand motion to the back of his neck. Sorry kid, that's the best I can do, thought B. However, what B couldn't see is that there was no fear in the kid's eye, only more blood dripping from them. Killer B was very confident in taking out the kid with this attack. However, when his hand connected, it didn't feel like he hit a person. Instead, he felt like his hand hit a very hard material. Yo, what's this, thought B, and before he could even react, he found that the chains that previously lost control were now trying to surround him like vicious snakes. They did so with a speed they never reached before, so it left him no time to understand what's happening, as he felt death was closer to him than ever before, and it literally is the case. Not good, was the only thought in Killer B's mind, and he couldn't even hear Yuki yelling in his head as his body instinctively used its fastest speed to rush to a small opening that wasn't closed yet by the chains. Killer B barely escaped. However, it wasn't without a sacrifice, as a small part of his right calf came in contact with the chains, and now he felt a terrible pain from it. Uggghhhh, groaned B, and when he looked at his calf, he saw a huge patch of rotten flesh that was trying to expand, and he finally heard Yuki yelling. B cut it off quickly, and he did so without hesitation. When he was done, and while holding his bleeding calf, B finally looked at the kid kneeling in front of him, and he noticed that his eyes were bleeding to a scary degree and his body was shaking, barely holding itself together when a red chakra started enveloping it. Meanwhile, as Killer B was tending to his wounds, the black Susanoo rib cage that I barely summoned disappeared back into thin air, and I felt a terrible pain swarming every cell of my body, and my strong vitality and basic regeneration ability could barely keep me from losing consciousness, so I had to use some of Kurama's chakra to help the healing process. What happened just now wasn't a fluke, as B and Yuki wouldn't have recklessly acted this way just because they got an opportunity. He could attack in many ways without getting close to Bakurio, so why did he choose to act this way? The reason for this is simple. The ability of Bakurio's right eye, Jikaninki, which allows him to feel and influence a person's emotions by either amplifying them or diminishing them, but what's more terrifying is the ability to create emotions. However, what Bakurio used here is the amplification and diminishing ability. At the start of the fight, he amplified the fear they felt from chains of death to make them paranoid and more inclined to take the first opportunity they find, and when that feeling reached its peak, that's when he pretended to be weak and lowered his head to show Killer B the back of his neck. Understanding that B wasn't into killing kids, Bakurio created an opportunity for him to take him out without killing him, and the moment B had this desire, Bakurio amplified it as much as possible while also diminishing his caution to make him less careful and lose that precious instant to react, which changed the whole game for him. As for his attack, it was simply blocked by Susanoo, which is the ultimate defense even at its most basic form. Next came the chains of death, which work in a way that the more stress you are willing to endure on your body, the faster they can become. That's why Bakurio almost directly collapsed. It was not only from the stress of using Susanoo but also because of overexerting himself to increase the speed of the chains of death. I was panting, dealing with the terrible pain all over my body while looking at B, who was still clutching on his bleeding calf while standing on one leg, and he said with a weak voice, "Yo kid, why you fight so nasty? Maybe my mistake for acting so hasty. Killer B, do you know how an Uchiha awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan and how it's related to the ability they awaken?" I said while hearing explosion sounds everywhere in the background from the battle between Kurama and the Raikage, and also Konoha's ninja led by Hiashi and Kumo's led by Darui. "I do know how you awaken your eye, but what ability you get, who knows why?" said B while rapping like always. This idiot still acts like this even during a war. He must really be confident in his brother and village forces. Well, it's good as long as I can buy some time until Kurama beat that annoying Raikage and I can't use my Mangekyo powers anymore. Anyways, or I will probably die from overexhaustion. I thought in an instant before I said. Killer B also was of a similar mind and was simply waiting for his calf to heal so that he can recover his speed. Well, I have a theory. I am sure you heard of Fugaku, the current Hokage of Konoha, and his ability to shrink space through your spies, right? Killer B nodded at this and waited for me to continue, not denying that they have spies. That ability was born from his strong desire to close the distance between his Uchiha clan and Konoha, so when he awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, he gained the ability to truly shrink space, I said with my face twitching in pain from time to time and still using Jikaninki to keep B willing to listen. Hearing what I said, not to mention B, even Gyuki was surprised at how the ability in Uchiha gains is related to his emotions. I see, I never expected this. It's a very weird hypothesis, said B in surprise. Yes it is, as for me I lost my emotion of happiness and I couldn't get it back again no matter what, so I always desired for death, so guess what I go when I awakened my eyes, I said with an ironic look in my eyes. Killer B reflected on our fight before he responded with narrowed eyes, you got those 4 chains of death. That almost took my breath, and an ability to control desire. That's what made my situation dire. I admired how he can rap at anything he says before I calmly replied. That's right. The 4 chains of death are the ability of my left eye named Yomi no Kuni. It allows me to summon chains from the realm of the dead that could corrode anything they touch, just like what happened to your blade and calf, and I could move them any way I want. It all depends on the strength of my body. Killer B frowned at this and really felt lucky that he reacted fast enough, as he would have instantly rotted away if he was trapped inside the chains. As for my right eye's ability, it's called Jikaninki and it allows me to control both emotions and desires that my target is currently having. I didn't tell him I could also create emotion for obvious reason. This is also the most taxing ability for my right eye, so I won't use it lightly. Confirming his guess, Killer B really started to take this kid seriously and he prepared to enter his second tailed beast mode. The time for playing is over. This kid is dangerous. I can't keep acting virtuous, thought Killer B as he decided to show no more mercy and treat this kid as an enemy ninja, so he planned to enter his second tailed beast mode. When a Jinchuriki gets used to controlling their tailed beast, they access their powers in different steps. First, there is the first tailed beast mode, and it is a dense shroud of chakra that forms around the Jinchuriki which they draw from their tailed beast. The shroud, a translucent red with bubbles of chakra reminiscent of boiling liquid forming all over it, provides a degree of physical protection, but can also harm the user if used to a certain extent if they are not in complete control of their tailed beast. The shroud that encompasses the Jinchuriki vaguely resembles the corresponding tailed beast. In the case of Killer B, chakra horns form on his head. Because chakra is malleable, the shroud can extend beyond the reach of the Jinchuriki, often used to create chakra arms that allow them to interact with their environment. However, the most significant manifestation is the tails that sprout from the Jinchuriki's body, up to the maximum number of tails that the corresponding beast possesses. Like in Killer B's case, in the previous fight he manifested 8 tails behind him. For each tail produced, the Jinchuriki gains an incrementally greater boost to speed, strength, and chakra. These are merely the benefits of the fist transformation provided by a tailed beast's chakra. The second mode is way more powerful. This mode works in a similar way to the first one, as the chakra of the tailed beast is going to envelop the Jinchuriki. However, this time this chakra will be converted into a humanoid shape, granting the Jinchuriki an edge in battle without completely releasing the beast itself. Using the Jinchuriki's body as a sort of endoskeleton, a dark red, nearly black layer of chakra envelops them. The physical manifestations of the corresponding beast that are vaguely present in the first mode become far clearer in the second mode, reproducing a humanoid miniature version of the beast. Muscle mass increases and beast-specific attributes such as shells and ears become clearly defined. This form grants so much power, durability and speed to the user, to the point that a Sage mode Naruto that was played around with pain became capable of demolishing that same pain, leaving him helpless without having any way to deal with him. And now Killer B was planning to enter this form, as he said, "Kid, this fight is over. And you are going to be the loser." I noticed how dark red chakra started enveloping him and his skin seemed to be disintegrating as I thought, "It seems I am left with no choice." Then I said in my mind, "Status. Level 31. Free attribute points 155. Name Bakurio Uchiha. Health 5000 9000 plus 104 per minute. Chakra 10,000 15,600 plus 212 per minute. Stamina 2000 4200 plus 56 per minute. Attributes STR 180, AGI 170, Phi 220, Bit 260, Sta 420, Spirit 530. Skills: Throwing Art level 48, Slithering Throwing Art level 31, Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu level 22, Close Combat Fighting level 71, Swordsmanship level 42, Body Flicker Jutsu level 53. Substitution Jutsu level 22. Water Bullet Jutsu level 26. Clone Jutsu level 6. Transformation Jutsu level 22. Shadow Clone Jutsu level 34. Fireball Jutsu level 25. Great Fireball Jutsu level 52. Great Fire Annihilation level 30. Great Breakthrough level 15. Quintuple Rashomon level 9. Cooking level 27. Chakra Control level 41. Meditation level 42. Eye of Insight level 31. Eye of Hypnotism level 27. Jikaninki level 4. Yomi no Kuni level 3. Susanoo level 2. Chakra. Fire Transformation level 32. Chakra. Water Transformation. Level 11. Chakra. Physical Energy Yang Transformation level 23. Chakra. Spiritual Energy Yin Transformation level 23. Chakra. Wind Transformation level 4. Abilities. Save and Load, Map, Appraisal, Basic Regeneration. Bloodline. Uchiha 50%. Talents. Chakra Master. Body Greek Master. Cooking Advanced, Sealing Advanced, Hunter Medium. Without hesitation, I used all of my 155 free attribute points, putting 20 on strength and 30 on agility, raising them both to 200. Then I poured the rest 105 on my physique, raising it all the way to 335, causing all the stress and pain I was feeling from overusing my Mangekyo Sharingan to disappear, and even my chakra volume increased. Killer B2 noticed how my muscles were becoming more defined and he started having a bad feeling, but my transformation wasn't over as I used something that I was leaving for urgent situations like this. It was the attributes multiplier. All of a sudden, all my attributes soared to an unbelievable degree and my body started visibly changing and growing taller, reaching almost 150 centimeters, and I felt an unimaginable level of strength, as if I could beat anyone with my fists alone, and my chakra started creating waves around me from its sheer volume. Next, I used the medium agility potion that increased the agility by 50% for 10 minutes. I honestly felt unbeatable at the moment, but I knew that even with all of this I am probably only as strong as Killer B in his first mode, so I can't be reckless. I checked my attributes again. Health. 21533 208 per minute. Chakra. 33320 424 per minute. Stamina. 8400 112 per minute. Attributes. STR 400, AGI 600, Phi 670, Bit 520, Sta 840, Spirit 1060. Both my transformation and B's transformation happened in less than a few seconds, and now reactivating my Mangekyo Sharingan, we gave one last look at each other. Of course B won't look directly at my eyes before we made our move. B directly stomped on the ground and rushed at me with such a speed that I believed was at least 50% faster than my current max speed. Bear in my mind that my current speed was already almost 2 times the speed of sound. However, even though he has the advantage over me, I can still easily react thanks to my superior reaction speed and Mangekyo Sharingan, so I summoned my 4 death chains and kept them circulating around me, bringing B, who was about to punch me, to a halt before he stabbed his hands on the ground, unrooting a huge patch of land the size of a small hill, and he threw it at me with such power that it created a sonic boom. Not good, I thought as I looked at this attack that could cause an enormous amount of destruction if it was used inside a hidden village. Looking at this small hill, I thought, he quickly deduced that I couldn't use the chains to completely cover my body, so he used such a sneaky attack which, even if I intercept with my chains, the debris would still be fatal even to my strong body. No, not only that, but he also wants to check the defense of my Susanoo, huh? Well, let me show how useful these chains are. I stopped using one of my chains for protection and I used it with a very fast speed like a whip to cut the huge patch of land in 2 pieces, each of them continuing their travel in a different direction. However, that's when something shocking happened. Through my Mangekyo Sharingan I saw an unbelievable scene. B, who was behind the land, suddenly vanished completely and I felt my heart constrict in fear. He tricked my eyes. However, before I could think anymore, I felt an overwhelming pressure and danger above me. Thank you for listening, guys. See you in the next part.